Hello and welcome back to another episode of league Talk, the podcast all about coaching, management, performance, and all things League of Legends. My name is AJ, and in today's episode, we've got an interesting one. So I wanted to talk through the ideas of these 30 days videos, 30 days of exercise, 30 days of X, Y, and Z, and how these are basically the idea behind it is to create positive habits. People say that it takes 30 days to create a habit, 2 weeks, you pick a number at times. But before we get into that, if you haven't noticed already, we've taken the schedule down a notch. We are going to one podcast a week on a Wednesday at 7 p.m. Reason for this being is with my full-time job that I'm working, me personally, I've now accepted a couple of other things that I've taken on as a result of league Talk. So if you're interested in those, go and check out my personal brand Twitter, which is AJ_esports, and you can see what's happening over there. But let's get back into the episode. There's going to be one a week, and it's going to be today, every Wednesday, 7 p.m. BST, UK time. So, what I wanted to take you through is what I've done over the last 30 days, which is 30 days of reading. Now, this seems like a bit of a weird one, but in my position, with this new job that I've got, I have a deep, deep desire to keep improving. And reading is something that in life, generally speaking, I just haven't done. The amount of books prior to this that I've read can be counted on one hand. There's maybe 5, 6 books that I've read in my entire life through memory. Obviously outside of the things you have to do with school, maybe that was a couple more. So maybe all in 22 years, there's been 10 books that I've read, maybe. And the knowledge that I have is from experience, from research, with research coming from education, my formal education, journal articles, things like that. But one thing that's always been very important to me is the idea of self-improvement, self-betterment. And this is where it sort of came from. So the seed was planted when Mummus came onto the podcast, and we spoke a little bit about this. And the seed was then growing, and he sort of recommended some books and affirmed the things I already knew to do with books. I then watched a Max Joseph video, and if you haven't watched that, go onto YouTube, type in Max Joseph, and that was all about striving for knowledge, taking stock of things that are going on in your life, taking stock of things and understanding what goes into reading. Now, I've read a lot of journal articles, but that's not quite the same as reading books. The depth isn't quite there, the background isn't quite there, it's more to do with research. So I want to be better at what I do, and I want to be more knowledgeable, and I want to get it from the source. That source is books. So one of the things that was very interesting as well in the Max Joseph video was the idea of forced meditation. So they talked about reading being a form of forced meditation, and meditation isn't always something that I'm very good at, nor do I enjoy an awful lot. There are different ways that I get the benefit of meditation through things like mindfulness training, which is meditation in essence, but nonetheless this is a forced meditation. So how do we do this? How did I do this? So I wanted to make it so easy that I couldn't not do it. It would make me feel bad if I didn't do it. So for example, I would read for 10 minutes every day. Now, I worked it out. There's X amount of minutes in a day, 60 minutes in an hour. There's 24 hours, 24 times 60. There's that many minutes in the day, and I've just got to read for 10 of them. It's like 1/240th or 1/440th of my day. Insane. How could I not read for 10 minutes? So that was the first thing. Make it so easy that I couldn't not do it. Set myself a target, make it so easy, achieve it. The next one was make barriers to entry non-existent. So I wanted to have lots of books, make sure that they were books that I wanted to read, and by doing that, keep the enjoyment up, keep the learning up. And the books that I had, I would have 3 to 4 books at a time, and I would sort of rifle through them. One day I might read the first book, the next is the second, I might go back to the first, I might start the third. I wanted to make it so there was no barriers, no reason for me not to read. Again, an easy way to create a habit. But I wanted to also create the habit of not hating reading, but learning from it, changing the mindset from, I can't believe I've got to read now, to I'm going to read, I'm going to better myself, I'm going to learn more. And by that, I'm going to help people learn, and they will vicariously get better around me. So that was another thing. And one thing that I learnt from Sens, who came on the podcast, who was the Movistar rider psychologist, is he said to put stuff around you to make you feel like you should. So when I would wake up, there would be a book next to me. When I would go to bed, there would be a book next to me. When I'd sit at my desk, there would be a book next to me. I wanted to make sure that books were always around me so I could always see them. Now, that was also something that was new and very interesting to me. But more to the point, I wanted to do a couple of things. I wanted to create a reward system around it, and I wanted to watch a video, and I wanted to have maybe go to sleep after I've read, lots of different things. So once I feel like I've read, I can then go to sleep, I can then watch a video, I can do the things that I enjoy doing. So that was really important as well. The next point that I wanted to talk about was accountability. I wanted to put it in my calendar to read it, or put a timer on to read for 10 minutes every day. I wanted to tell my family, let them know. My mum, she will hold me accountable for it. My girlfriend. I wanted to go and make people know that I'm doing this and hold me accountable in case I couldn't do it myself. Now, luckily, I'm extremely internally motivated, so that wasn't much of an issue. But for some people, this is important. So the points were: make barriers to entry non-existent, make it so easy I can't do it, change my mindset around reading, put things around me to feel like I should read, have a reward system, and keep myself accountable. So those were the 6 things that I wanted to do going into this. Now, of course, you don't have to do all those 6 things to create a habit, but it is something that you want to think about. So now what I wanted to do was show you what happened. So the first book that I read was an easy one. It's only a small one. It was The Art of Breathing by Dr. Danny Penman. Now, for me, I wanted to make sure I was reading books that were beneficial to me in terms of a practical sense. So I didn't want non-fiction. I wanted fiction. I didn't want fiction. I wanted non-fiction. I wanted to learn from the books rather than just enjoy them. I wanted to learn and enjoy. So The Art of Breathing by Dr. Danny Penman. Managed to finish that. That was all about how we breathe, the importance of breathing, and what it can do for us in lots of different aspects in life. The next book was called The Mental Edge. Now, this was by Kenneth Baum. This was a very interesting one. Notes of visualization, concentration techniques. There was loads of stuff. Basically, the idea of giving you a mental edge through outside of performance aspects. Very, very interesting. Managed to read that one as well. I then got on to Gung Ho, which was it's by Ken Blanchard and Sheldon Bowles. This was a very, very interesting one. It was all about motivating people in a workspace, using techniques from different aspects in terms of motivational aspects to help people get more motivated about what they were doing. Now, that one was finished as well. So 3 books down, not bad. I then got on to The Power of Habit. Now this one, shout out to Mummas. This one was the one that Mummas had recommended to me. And this was a very, very good book. Also, John Ellis, who works with Excel, he also recommended this book as well. So I picked this one up. I'm maybe like a third of the way, maybe halfway through this. But this one's really interesting as well so far. I don't want to make too many comments, but it's all about the habit loop that we have and creating good habits through cues, routines, and rewards. So these were all of the things that I wanted to learn about. And these were the books that I managed to finish. So from going from not reading at all, maybe 6 books in 22 years, to 3 books in less than a month, and half of this one in 30 days, I feel like I've done all right, So all of these things and all of the things I put into place were very, very interesting for me and very positive. So there we go. Those are the things that I've done. Those are the books that I've read, and that was the way that I did it. Now, what did I learn from this? How did creating habits benefit me, and how did this habit benefit me? I'm going to be brutally honest. I haven't kept this up for 10 minutes every day. I read maybe every other day now, but there's a couple of other things. So I'm going through sort of learning programs and a different educational system. So the strive for knowledge has continued through reading, not as heavily, but through different aspects, yes. So what did I learn? I noticed that 10 minutes was a perfect time for me. It left me wanting to read a little bit more, but didn't make me feel burnt out, and I wasn't always checking the clock. If it was 20 minutes, I feel like I would definitely be checking the clock. 20 minutes was a bit much, but 10 minutes was a perfect time for me, and I was noticing that I wanted to read more. The massive thing that I learned was it was amazing before going to bed. It would sort of get me sleepy, so the reward at times, instead of watching the video, just became go to sleep. I would read and then I would go straight off to sleep, and I would have a good night's sleep that way. But what else? Those were positives. There was a couple of negatives. I noticed that my mind was wandering an awful lot at the start. I spent part of the time not really taking information in, and I would have to go back and read over it. This was something that changed. I noticed that I would sort of drift off after 2 or 3 minutes at the beginning, and then towards the end I would be able to concentrate through the 10 minutes, take most of the information in. The only thing that would stop me was if my mind was running elsewhere, so there was a couple of times where I didn't really take the information in and I was just reading, glazing through. But what I did learn was the amount of knowledge that was acquired was incredible. It was second to none. I haven't had the ability to take in as much knowledge as I have over the last 30 days, comparative to any other point in my life. So the books are clearly doing something good. And I would read, depending on the book, depending on the font size, depending on the page size, I would read somewhere between 10 and 20 pages in the 10 minutes. I'm not a fast reader. I was never intending to be a fast reader. I was intending to achieve the things that I wanted to achieve when I set this out. But this is a very basic way of creating some habits. I have the cue, the reward, and it becomes the routine, if that makes sense. Or the cue, the routine, and the reward. The cue was I wanted to learn more. The routine was that I would read, and then the reward was I would go to sleep. Or, I would watch a video, play a video game, whatever that may be. So this was a beautiful exercise for me, something that I enjoyed an awful lot. It was only over 30 days. I will be keeping it up, not to the everyday extent, but definitely 10 minutes every other day, every 2 days, every 3 days potentially. But the important thing to remember from all of this is we can all start these habits. The time to start is now, and you just need that little spark of motivation, and often you need accountability, but we did talk about a couple of other things. So how the seed was planted, why I did this, why I wanted to keep improving, why I wanted to have the knowledge. When I would do it, I would mostly do it at night, but how I would do it is 10 minutes, make it super easy so I couldn't not do it, make barriers to entry non-existent, create the habit and change the mindset of reading and the thoughts around it, puts things around me to make me feel like I should do it, have a reward system, have accountability, and hold myself accountable. And then when it comes to the learning, just to recap, learned that 10 minutes was good for me. Test that. Again, one of the things that I always talk about on this podcast is testing. I noticed I wanted to read a little bit more. It was extremely good before going to bed. And whilst my mind wandered, that forced meditation really was a thing, and it did help me an awful lot. So, this is a short podcast, but if you did enjoy it, let me know. At leaguE Talk Show on Twitter, up here, if you're watching it on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, whatever that may be. It would mean the world to me if you could leave a little review. Whether it's positive, negative, just some feedback is amazing. But if this episode has helped you, it has made you think a little bit more, let me know. My DMs are always open, and I would love to help in any way, shape or form. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next one.